weeks, and I can tell you things are chomping at the international level, and the ICT industry has a major role to play in that. I've labeled my presentation, Trinidad and Tobago ICT industry, a long climb. It has been a long climb in making, and the climb will be a little bit longer in coming. But the length of the climb will depend on how we approach it, how we put our minds to getting around the hurdles that we presented. And I wanted to say that I wanted to frame this presentation in the context of what has been happening internationally. There's a big debate going on right now. As you know, in about, I think it was around 2005, the Millennium Development Goals were developed. And in 2010, there was a review as to progress. And they are proposing a number of measures at the present time to look at 2015, which is the post-current development agenda, where the Millennium Development Goals have taken a new dimension. All right? And the role of ICT in developing the 8 goals that have been defined thus far is very, very clear. And we in this country have to make sure that we fall into the development path. Now these goals are wide ranging. You eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, achieve universal primary school education, promote gender equality, etc. And in reviewing these goals, I felt that there was a lack of sufficient attention placed on ICT. It was a major, to my mind, it was a major omission. I remember in reading of the development of the goals, 2 of the UN officials who were down in a basement putting this thing together, and when they finished it, they took it to print. And on the way out, one of the gentlemen saw the person in charge of sustainable development at the UN, and it hit him. They had forgotten to mention sustainable development in the goals, and so he ran back and put it in. And I think they forgot to treat ICT in the in-depth manner that they should have. What they've done in the review in 2010 is call for the strengthening of public-private partnerships in order to close the large gaps that remain in access to and affordability of information and communication technology across countries and income groups, including by upgrading the quality and quantity of the existing telecommunication infrastructure. And they were speaking of this particularly in the context of the least developed countries, to support more modern information and communications technology applications and greatly increase connectivity. This is what we're trying to do here. Also access and investment in innovation, etc., etc. Now, they also mentioned that information technology and information and innovation in areas relevant for the achievement of these goals, such as agricultural productivity, water management, and sanitation, etc., must be key. Now, all of this tells us that the role of ICT in all of this is key because we have to look at these goals, we have to arrive to meet these goals, and we have to get involved in the debate as to where we take the World Development Agenda post-2015. And Trinidad and Tobago, as I recognized over the last few days at the ILO meeting I was at, need to my mind, get greater focus to place on ICTs in this context, and also the role that small island development economies like ours will play in this. So I said from the beginning, I felt that the focus on ICT was insufficient, and it should have been a goal in its own right, rather than being a facilitation of the other 8 goals. But that being the case, every single goal that they have developed there needs the support of ICTs. And if you bring these goals to Trinidad and Tobago, it shows you that every area of our activity needs the support of ICTs. Now, what can we do now to go forward? We want to say that the use of ICTs by the business community must evolve exponentially. I've been on record as saying that we cover the C part of it by cell phone technology, etc., but the IT part of it is lacking. Most of our business community would use ICTs, to my mind, to treat with payroll and HR usage, etc., except for the companies like Telios and others who are into the thing in a big way. But it has been lacking. The public sector also, notwithstanding what we have done and the great work that has been done by iGovTT and others, needs to be re-engineered at the level of the desktop, at the level of the average public servant. I say so because I manage them every day. We have not yet managed to get the impact to hit them where they should feel it. And we have to do something about that. Now, what are we up against? Why do we need to have this new focus on ICTs? We are up against training patterns that has resulted in an increased demand for global talent. I had the benefit a few weeks ago in Washington, D.C. to have a presentation done by the economists, the economics group out of Britain, the economists. And they were saying, and they were making the point, that the whole availability of talent throughout the world is changing. And we are seeing tectonic market shifts transforming the global business landscape. And as a result, employers are demanding new skills from their employees, yet often they are short in supply. We have about 40 million workers in industrialized countries that are unemployed. We have about 200 million across the world unemployed right now. And of that 200 million, 75 million of them are youth. Now, it presents a problem. And for countries like ours, you're going to see why it's presenting a problem. It's going to present a problem. We are seeing a realignment. As we have the E7, the emerging countries, the new emerging countries coming on stream, we see them beginning to outpace the first world. And this is important for us to try to do. We must take note, and we must train our people to deal with it. We are seeing that more talent is being homegrown in the developing world. We are seeing that currently 54% of the university graduates coming out of university are from the emerging economies. And in the next 5 years, 60% of these university graduates will be from the emerging economies. That speaks volumes for us, because we must observe the trend and we must meet with the trend and support the trend. Over the next decade, new and sometimes unlikely regions in the world will generate a surplus of talent. We see talent being generated in surplus in China, in India, in Turkey, in South Africa, in Brazil. There's a whole change of structure. And we see Europe lagging behind. We see France, Italy, Germany lagging behind. We see the US lagging behind in terms of this generation of talent. Where do we in this country fall in terms of meeting that gap? And I think we're on the right track, because from what we'll be hearing this afternoon and what we've heard 3 quarters of the day, this country is on the way to trying to treat with that new gap that's going to be on the horizon. The study also projected 4 broad areas where skills will be in greatest demand. And bring it right to digital skills. Due to our fast-growing digital economy, it is also saying that they will need a new kind of executive who will have to deal with agile thinking and be safe and treat with safeguarding economies against economic, political, and market shocks. You will have to develop interpersonal and communication skills, and of course, global operating skills. And ICT benchmarks all of this. All of this cannot survive, cannot develop without ICT. And I'll bring it up shortly. As you see here, the study that was done by the economists out of London showed that digital business skills will amount for 50.6% of the required skill set in the international. Ability to work virtually will take up 9%. Understanding of corporate IT software ecosystem and systems are 40.1%. Digital design skills will account for 35.2%. And ability to use social media and web 2.0, 29.3%. And it breaks down all. This study was done by observing 350 CEOs from across the world. And they have come up with some predictions which all point to the fact that the world is changing, the emerging economies are taking over. Where do you place ourselves in Trinidad and Tobago? What are the solutions? Investment in human capital development, skills training and retraining, educational science and technology policies, policy coherence, a very, very important element. We have to start thinking and doing this country in a from a silo perspective. We've got to start integrating economic policy with social policy, because if we don't, we'll be doing so at our peril. And a greater collaboration and sharing of experiences, repeating economies created by joint action and policies, and refocusing our educational needs in line with the forecast I've just mentioned. We need to reorder, we need to rethink where we are going. Now, all of this needs to be replicated in terms of, all our efforts to be replicated in terms of transforming the business environment. And the case of doing business must be enhanced, the ease of doing business rather, must be enhanced if we are to make any impact. And the role of ICTs in this regard is paramount. The climb up, as I mentioned, the climb up to the goal of being ICT ready and fully able, must therefore be shown. Now, bringing this all home, we in the Ministry of Labour and previously I was in the Ministry of Trade and Industry have been trying to devote our attention to how we can treat with the use of ICTs to help the country develop. As Simon mentioned, in the Ministry of Trade and Industry, we had embarked on developing TT Link, which was, for us at the time, a major movement to getting the public sector to be able to deliver service much more speedily and much more easily. And that itself was a major transformation effort, because the hardest thing we had to do was to get mindset change, to start having the people who use the systems to think differently, and to be able to go from doing a service over a period of 2 weeks, probably over to a period of over 2 hours. So you had to re-engineer the way things were done. And that was achieved to a certain extent, but there's still a long way to go. There's still a very long way to go, and we've managed to take on board a number of services and transform them partially. I say partially because it's not fully transformed yet, because it has been a re-rendering really of the hard paper world into a software world, rather than a full re-evaluation and a full recommitment of the entire processes to a software existence. So it's a work in stages. We have also, at the Ministry of Labour, sought to treat with what is called the Fair Share Program. And the Fair Share Program is a program in which the government is seeking to give access to small and micro enterprises, micro and small enterprises and cooperatives to 10% of government contracts, up to, well, access to government contracts up to $1 million, if to all qualifying micro, small, medium, and enterprises and cooperatives. And to do this, we have found that the only way we can do this successfully is to have a very robust electronics and very robust software-driven database where we can capture all of these small businesses and micro businesses and have them have access to by the public service, who will know who they are and utilize them in terms of giving services as they can do it up to $1 million TT. And so we are building right now the software for that. It should be launched very, very shortly. And we are seeking to ensure that the small and micro entrepreneur in the country is able to commit and to contribute to the transformation of the national economy. We have also utilized technology in terms of data and data generation. We have found that there is a lack, and we all know this. We've all complained about the CSO, but the CSO is seeking to change the ways that it does business. And we felt that in terms of labor information and labor statistics, we needed to bring a new horizon on the table. And so we have gone into developing the Caribbean, we have gone into shifting and changing the focus of a Caribbean labor market information system that we got out of the ILO and then done for the OECS countries. And we are transforming this into a national labor market information system where we can have live data, up-to-date data to facilitate planning, to facilitate organizing, and decision making, and that is on the way. Simon also mentioned the IB system, and I'll say quickly that we have put in place the development of a national incubator system where we are giving micro and small entrepreneurs access to training in business and access to facilities where they can go and develop their businesses from an incubator standpoint. And these incubators, we are hoping to have a very heavy technology factor because we can really economy of scale. If you were to use cloud, for example, rather than using each person buying software, whether it's Microsoft or whatever, you can reap economies of scale by having a cloud delivery where small American entrepreneurs, once they're registered, can log in and utilize these programs, which if you were to purchase them individually would be quite expensive. We have also sought to develop our national employment system by re-energizing it. For those of you who have used it at the Ministry of Labour and have lost confidence in it, I want to tell you that we are coming with a new system which will seek to be on par with Caribbeanjobs.com, for example. So the use of technology is key, and we have no choice but to redefine our systems, redefine our energies and our efforts to ensure that we become more competitive, that we reap economies of scale, reap economies of time and distance by using the technology. And as a ministry responsible for labor, you might think that it's only dealing with industrial disputes, but our repertoire is much larger than that. We are into the development of green jobs, we are into the development of small and micro enterprises, etc. And so there has to be a focus in the use of ICTs, and I'm very happy that we have managed to do so in some small way. There's a long way to go again, and we depend on all of you to help us go where we want to go. I thank you.
Yes, Francis. And I'll just remind the audience that get your questions queued up.